It is a beautiful early summer day at Magny-Cours. It's a busy, busy weekend at this fabulous circuit, and it's the Clio Cup series. Not the Euro Cup this weekend, but it's a combination of Clio Cup France, Clio Cup Spain, and Clio Cup Eastern Europe. We've got 37 cars lining up on the grid for the first of their two races, and conditions are fabulous. Look, 22 degrees nearly air temperature, 30 degrees track temperature, and it's only going to climb from there. Humidity nicely under control. The paddock is absolutely packed at this circuit right in the centre of France, and the stage is well and truly set. As I said, 37 cars lined up for the first of two weekends, a weekend peppered with top GT racing and other one-make series, little single-seater series as well. But this is the big moment for the drivers to see what they can do on the Magny-Cours circuit, and they really have got the space to stretch their legs as the circuit rises up and down the hill, with the Adelaide hairpin, the best overtaking place being right at the highest point on the circuit. And so, with the final runners just snaking their way down towards the final corner, the Virage de Lycée, and onto the grid, it is a very, very busy place to go. Obviously, clearly haven't all arrived in grid order. In fact, no, the problem is car 51 is not getting going at the moment. It appears to have a problem. Other cars are having to go past it, or did they just merely... He got there too soon and they're having to drive their way around. But I can tell you the front row of the grid is shared by Davey Poogey on pole by the smallest of margin in the number 15 entry from GPA Racing from Nicola Milan. And these are drivers who in the Euro Series are fighting right at the top of the table, with Nicola Milan, the overall European Series leader for the Clio Cup Europe. But this is for Clio Cup France, Clio Cup Spain, and Clio Cup Eastern Europe this weekend, with the main protagonists from the European Series here to just keep themselves race sharp, and also simply to race at the Magny-Cours circuit. Davey Poogey on pole. That is the right-hand side of the circuit. It's the side away from the pit wall, the side that ought to offer the wider entry line into Grand Courbe, the long left-hander that feeds into Estoril, a corner that keeps going and going and going as it turns to the right and puts the cars onto that climb up to the top of the hill to Adelaide, where you can be sure there will be fearsome overtaking up there. Nice and wide on entry, but every single colour of car you could want down on the grid. Davey Poogey on pole, European Championship leader Nicola Milan alongside. They've been fighting together at the front of the championships for the Clio Cup Series around Europe for years now. And you do expect the cream to rise to the top, and here most certainly it has, with Marc Guillot on the third row, who also is from the Milan competition team. So GPA Racing on pole with Davey Poogey, and alongside him Nicola Milan, Milan Competition, Marc Guillot, Milan Competition. There he is in the bright yellow number 3. He starts on the outside of the second row. And then the second of the GPA Racing entries, French racer Alexandre Albuy, will be starting alongside. There it is, car number 25. So a little bit more alignment on the grid to get the 2x2 formation that's going to be required. It's going to be fast, it's going to be furious, it's going to be 25 laps plus one bonus lap before the checkered flag comes out. And the grid is a very, very busy place to go. Just waiting with that 3-minute board to start warning those at the front of the grid. In fact, all of the grid, all 37 cars, as they continue to get put into position. Now, Joran Lenoitre, a fantastic job to get up with the regular European Championship front runners to be at the front end of the grid, 6th on the grid for JSB Competition on his home turf. So he could be someone who upsets the established front runners. So a great job from him in qualifying. And his best lap was just under a second down on Davey Poogey's pole lap, which actually I sold him a bit short. It was almost half a second clear of Nicola Milan. Jerzy Spinkovic, again, very strong across the various European and national Clio Cup series in recent years, and the Polish racer starting 5th on the grid. He's with Unique Racing. So good mixture of teams. GPA Racing, Milan Competition lock up the front 2 rows. Then you've got Unique Racing, JSP Competition on row number 3. Another team will be starting 7th. That's Cot Auto Motorsport with Alex Lahoz. And then another car, the third car from Milan Competition, Leo Jousset, joining the front runners as well. So there, car 47, that is Alex Lahoz. Remember the colours, they're going to be quite difficult to pick out as the field tries to take the corners 3-4 abreast around those first few corners. Remember, Grand Cours feeds to the left. Estoril is the lowest point on the circuit. It's a long, long right-hander. And the cars could just as easily be 4 abreast as they come out of that to start the kinked climb up towards Adelaide. There's Leo Jusset mixing with the front runners in 8th on the grid. And it's good to see a lot of the French series, the Clio Cup France runners, mixing with the top Euro runners and getting themselves into that top 10. 37 cars, as I've mentioned, waiting to go out to play. 2 races this weekend, 1 today, 1 tomorrow. And I cannot stress how packed the race agenda is at Magny-Cours. We'll be racing into the dark tonight, and the paddock is a buzzing place to be. And wise people going out and finding their positions in the grandstands around the circuit. Some fantastic vantage points, it must be said, here at Magny-Cours, particularly if you're up at the grandstand that looks down the hill from the highest point, looks down onto the Adelaide hairpin. You can also, from that vantage position, see the cars go down the slope from there to Nürburgring and back up the hill, coming the other end of that loop to Imola, and maybe even spot them going into Chateau d'Eau before the track pours down the hill back towards the main pit building, which we can see just on the right-hand side of the shot on that start-finish straight. With that very, very tight and fiddly final corner, it's effectively one corner which is very tight after curved entry into the chicane. Chicane onto the start-finish straight. It was modified long ago, but the circuit, when it was converted back in the 1980s from being a club circuit, absolutely in the centre of France, it suddenly was given a huge amount of money and became a Grand Prix circuit. Far from the madding crowd, far from hotels for many people. When you've got a packed agenda, it's very difficult indeed to get a place to sleep near the circuit. But the circuit has always been a brilliant one for racing, and for these Renault Clios, it's really beautifully suited for multi-cars attacks into each and every one of the corners. So, as the field leads away, Davey Poogey from pole. Alongside him, Nicola Milan. Marc Guillot is sure to trouble them. And then Alexandre Albuy will be looking to pitch in as well. There we have the front row. Davey Poogey, car number 15 from Nicola Milan, number 1. Nicola Milan was French champion in 2020, French champion in 2021, Spanish champion in 2021 as well. Jerzy Spinkovic, Polish racer, good nationality mixture there. And certainly look for the driver starting in 6th place. Joran Lenoitra challenging runners who would expect to be somewhat ahead of him, but he's really clearly raised his game, which is what you like to see. We never like stasis in motor racing, but look at the combination. Obviously, with the Eastern European part of the Clio Cup, we've got drivers from not just France and Spain for their national series, but from further beyond. But of course, as you look down the grid, there are a huge number of French racers competing on their home turf. Andrew Stuckey from Switzerland, providing another nationality. Now, this is the view down from the high grandstands to the Adelaide hairpin. You could be sure there have been 1 or 2, if not 10 or 12, overtaking manoeuvres there on the opening lap of the race. Now in the second half of the grid, Leonard Viguier would have been expected to be further forward, but be sure for T2 CM he will make progress. Horn, racing just under the pseudonym, runs for one of the top teams, GPA Racing. Fabien Julia alongside for LR Performance. Team Border Rally have a couple of cars for the Border-Garret brothers. That's the second of them down in 28th position. René Steenmits, one of the Dutch racers, always has a good crack in the 3 classes. Let's explain. You've got the overall class, you've got the Challengers Cup class, and then the Gentleman's Standing. Stefan Polderman leads that in the European Series, but his fellow Dutchman, René Steenmits, here. So, the final few rows of the grid. 37 cars in all. This is the penultimate row. Rodrigo and Sempere, 2 Spanish drivers, going for their own individual points in the Spanish Cup Series. And the final entry, there it is, the back row. German racer from Carpec Series, that's the orange number 51. Seibel bringing up the rear. Great conditions for racing and for watching racing here at Magny-Cours. Gentle breeze blowing along the start-finish straight, so into the drivers' faces as they put the power down to go to Grand Cours for the first time. "25 laps lie ahead of us, and getting a good line into the first corner. Easiest, of course, for the front 2 drivers, Davey Poogey and Nicola Milan, but for those behind, they don't get to choose their own line a lot of the time. You get someone with a bad start in front of you, you have to go round them, you have to go off your natural racing line. It's going to be packed, it's going to be busy, and this is the view of that tricky final corner. The Virage du Lycée, you're arcing to the left, you have a 90-degree right, and then just as you're looking straight ahead of you at the end of the pit building, you've got to go right and left through a chicane onto the start-finish straight. And get a bad exit from there, it's going to cost you the whole way down to Estoril. Last few cars just coming round to the back end of the grid. 37 cars coming out to play. Front row already in position. Just a short while ago, it was 30 degrees track temperature, just about 22 degrees air temperature. See the flag blowing, those yellow flags on the right-hand side of the screen, just blowing away. Headwind for the drivers here, but of course a tailwind as they go up the climb towards Adelaide. But actually, I don't think it's going to affect them too much at all. Last few corners, just approaching that final fiddly little chicane. There it is onto the start-finish straight. Look at the tyre marks on the curbing, and you can see the best line through there is over the curbs and beyond. But up front, let's hope we can keep it clean. Davey Poogey, Nicola Milan, Magny-Cours and Alexandre Albuy filling the front two rows. Last car into position, the course car just tucking in behind. At any moment now, the lights will go red and then will turn to green. Who will lead into Grand Corps for the first time? Waiting for those lights. See them at the top of the screen on the gantry. The drivers can see them, a nice clear line. Waiting to be flicked on, still waiting for the sequence. All 37 cars in position, which is good. All the lights will have to come on in sequence. And then, and only then, can the cars go racing. Who's going to be tempted to have a jump start? Who's going to fall into that little trap of just going when they sense the movement from the car ahead? It's all about anticipation. And it is a long hold. Of course, it's a random amount of time that can be used before you trigger it, but you can imagine those on the front row, Davey Poogey, Nicola Milan, they'll be sitting here for some while. Wave green flag at the back, the light sequence can come on. There it comes, the first of the 5 lights. They'll work their way through to 5, and then when they go out, bam, it's time to go racing. Who is going to be best off the line? Looks a very good start from David Poogey moving across, but Nicola Milan is exactly alongside. But behind him, rather than being 2x2, they're 4x4. But Nicola Milan makes the better start. But of course, he was on the outside line. If he can get far enough ahead, then David Poogey won't be able to tuck up the inside into Estoril. A bit of dust kicked up, and in fact, a very sideways Nicola Milan. So there he was hoping to make a move for the lead, and he's lost out. He's fallen back to third place, and those behind are taking the wide line and the wider line. Dust everywhere, and drivers doing incredibly well. Unfortunate spinner there, number 3, just about got out of the gravel and then clipped the edge and went around, and that's unfortunately for Alejandro Royo. Up front into the Adelaide hairpin for the first time. It's fine for David Poogey, and you can see how Nicola Milan made that challenge between the first and second corners between Grand Corps and Estoril, and lost out. There's still dust hanging down at the exit of Estoril. There's dust on the exit of Adelaide, the hairpin at the top, but really it's been very clean indeed. Car 15 started on pole, half a second quicker in qualifying than the best of the rest. That's Davey Poogey. He is still in the lead. It's been a very clean first lap, with just enough in position to take that inside line into turn 2, into the Estoril corner, and from there he's been in front. And you could see that moment where Nicola Milan had the tail kick out on him in number 1, the car that was challenging for the lead, and that cost him momentum, and that cost him position back into third. He's got to fight back now. Down the hill they come. There's appreciable gradient change at Magny-Cours, far more than you realise if you just look at it on TV. But at this point they're just going as a couple of back markers. Well, they might not have been back markers right at the start, but up at the Adelaide gravel they are sitting. Safety car has been deployed. Of course, this stricken Clio is almost dead ahead for the drivers as they come up the slope to Adelaide, so waiting for recovery. Car number 20 is one of the fallers, was from the second half of the field, but matters not. They all have their own battles for the various championships, and but often if you're at the back of the field you get caught up in a concertina effect from those in front of you. That was Jan-Mael Naviord, who was starting actually on the 17th row of the 19, so really just a little over-enthusiastic, possibly avoiding someone else's moment. But until that car has been recovered from the gravel, everyone else back off, slow down. The safety car has picked them up, came out just before pit exit, so leads them down the start-finish straight. So it's David Poogey from Alexandre Albuy. So the 2 GPA racing cars from the front of the field are running first and second, and Milan competition with Nicola Milan and Magny-Cours fall back with their cars to third and fourth. And let's just go down the top 10. Then Joran Lenoitre went from 6th to 5th, so position gain. Jerzy Spinkovitz went the opposite way, 5th back to 6th. Alexandre Lahoz started 7th, is still 7th. Nicolas Abella has gained 2 positions. Sorry, 1 position, just gone up to 9th position from 10th. And pit visitation, that's going to put you at the back of the race order. So if you just happen to have switched on to watch what's happening in the Clio Cup action, there's been action aplenty on the opening lap, but unfortunately with one of the tail enders stuck in the gravel up at the top of the hill at the Adelaide hairpin. While that car is being recovered, we have the safety car leading the field around. But of course it does mean when we get to the restart, it won't be 2 by 2, it will be 1 by 1, and that train of cars, Indian file, will be led by Davey Poogey. And for those that didn't get too far, we saw number 3 in the troubles early on, went all the way through the gravel. It's Alejandro Royo at Estoril, just about got onto the track to rejoin and then clipped the tyre wall and flipped it round. Car coming in for a little bit of inspection, and actually, providing this happens for a couple of laps, may be able, if he really gets a move on, to close in on the tail of the pack. But he's probably only just going through Grandcourbe and Estoril. So it was an exciting start, very tidy at the front, and the green car, the green Clio, just about got its nose in front into the first corner. That was Nicola Milan. Now, the pole man was down the inside, and as long as he could get his nose up the inside into the second corner, Estoril he could. He actually clipped the dust on the inside, and just out of that, so down towards the tail of the field, you can see just turn 1 feet into turn 2. Now look out for, from about 10th place down, 2 cars going wide into the gravel, and one of them just gets back onto the track, and the other one, number 3, just clips the tyre wall at the exit, spins it round, and did well for everyone else to avoid him. But race compromise, but it could have been a whole lot worse. That is a giant gravel trap down there, but really for poleman Davey Poogey, he braved it out. You have to try, which is what Nicola Milan did, but he ended up going sideways into Estoril. He was 3rd by the time they got up to the top of the hill, and in behind, very tight indeed. Look to the back of the pack. It was just out of the back of the pack that we had some spinners. But that should be cleaned up fairly soon indeed. But of course, the clock continues to count down. So waiting for racing to rejoin. 25 minutes and 1 standing lap beyond that. 1 extra lap afterwards, but how soon until we can go racing all over again? Davey Poogey, though, on pole by half a second. We can see the driver of number 104 has his wing mirror giving him no help at all. That's Leo Jusset, who is he's fallen down the order a little. I'm just waiting to see. He started in actually quite well placed on the grid. He started from 8th place, but Leo has been one of those who lost ground, and with those cars bouncing through the gravel, he's fallen 14 positions to 22nd. So there's the cost of just trying to get around the outside of someone and running out of track. Safety car still at the front of the field. This is first of 2 races here this weekend at Magny-Cours. And it's for the Clio Cup France, the Clio Cup Spain, and also the Clio Cup Eastern Europe. This isn't a round that counts for European Championship points. We've had one at Jarama, one at Imola. The next one will be at Zandvoort. But a lot of those European Series front runners are here, including the championship leader, Nicola Milan. But he made that move for the lead. It didn't work. Instead of being 2nd or even going to 1st, he's fallen back to 3rd place. Safety car still leading around. The lights still on the roof of the safety car are flashing. Not looking to go in as yet. Just trying to get line of sight. As soon as the lights go out on the roof of that yellow Renault safety car, then the driver behind, the race leader, the poleman, David Poogey, will know that he will be about to dictate. He'll be the one that dictates when throttle is floored. But actually think about the format of the lap at Magny-Cours with that very tight final couple of corners, and it's very, very tricky indeed for those behind to keep up. Now, class position in the JSB competition, Jean Lenoitre going really, really well, leading his class in the French Championship, and he is running in 5th place overall. That really is an excellent, excellent position. Safety car in this lap, the lights are out on the roof, so now David Poogey knows what he has to do. Right, it'll be about 17 minutes remaining in this race, plus 1 extra lap at the end. That is what he needs to control. Coming down to the final corner, the Virage du Lycée, and he's floored the throttle already, bouncing over the curbs. The straight line is the quickest line. Very spectacular at Magny-Cours, but you can see how hard it is to overtake at the end of the lap. But the overtaking manoeuvres tend to be made not so much into Grand Courbe after the opening lap, but if you can get a good line through the next corner as the field of cars strings its way around the circuit. If, as they go out of Grand Courbe, they turn into Estoril, you can get a good exit, maybe get a toe up the hill, then the best place to make a passing manoeuvre is at the hairpin at the top at Adelaide. Alexandre Albuy right on his teammate's tail, right on the tail of Davey Poogey, race leader. Thomas Pekka making an attack down in the middle of the pack. Not going to make a move. Nicola Milan decides second place is what he'd prefer to third, so he moves past Alexandre Albuy. Nice tidy manoeuvre, absolutely textbook use of the toe up the hill, and his teammate Marc Guillot with the yellow tail on his car is looking to make a move as well and push Alexandre Albuy back. But don't forget the bottom of the hill there, you get to 180. There they are through the chicane on the way down. That's Nürburgring. So many of the corners named after great European circuits. Bottom of the hill though, if you can turn in with your nose in front, you should be fine, and that's precisely what's happened for Davey Poogey. And Joran Neutra, number 77, gets a better exit of out of 180, but as they go up the hill, they've got a right-left chicane. Right-left at Imola. Can he make it a place gain? No, he can't. Just being blocked by Marc Guillot now. So positions changing all the time. Guillot fighting for fourth rather than for third. Has he got a puncture? He's really dropping right back. He doesn't seem to have the grip. I didn't see why, but it could have been a bit of body rub. Don't forget he was challenging for third position. He's now back in fourth, now back in fifth, because the Neutra's moved through. But really, as he turned in at the top of the hill at Château d'Eau, it looked as though he had no grip whatsoever. Down to the bottom of the hill, looked to make the moves, and in the background, Nicola Milan, car 93, was picking them up. Now 2 by 2 through the chicane. That doesn't really work. The pit wall gets a bit close. First full racing lap since the safety car. Davey Poogey leads by 0.286 of a second from Nicola Milan. So the two front runners back at the front of the field. Then Alexandre Albuy, Marc Guillot, and Joran Neutra. So the positions moving up and moving down at the very top end, which is just how we like it. All the way down the pack, you can be sure there are overtaking manoeuvres happening that we're not getting to see. But up front, Nicola Milan is in number 1, is hunting down David Poogey. Up the hill they go. The yellow and white flashes the poleman. Poogey still in front. Green, white and red livery of the chasing Nicola Milan. He'll be biding his time. He's got time of plenty, just over a quarter of an hour plus an extra lap. In fact, you have to look down to about 20th position before you get an overtaking manoeuvre at Adelaide. Will that work? Car 70 just prevails there. Down the slope they come. Neat and tidy. David Poogey still in front. Nicola Milan, you can see him gaining places. He's moved up to 8. He just set the fastest first sector of anyone, so he may yet be good for moving up the order. And Nicola Milan has the fastest lap of the race, almost 2 minutes flat, 2 minutes 0.026 of a second. He's now got a toe. Milan tucked in behind David Poogey. Third place, Alexandre Albuy with the blue front left corner on his car, trying to stay with them. Lose the toe and you really, really suffer. Nicola Milan, well, he's being very, very spectacular. Car 93, that was another place gained. Blue car with the pink flashes on it. The Spaniard really, really pushing on. Last year he was 7th in the Spanish Clio series. This year, with the speed he's showing today, you sense he's going to be rather higher in the rankings of that. And the all-yellow car, car number 2, Marc Guillot. He lost ground early on. He's back into third place. Started third, back into third now. Alexandre Albuy losing out in that little tussle. Onto the start-finish straight they go yet again. It'll be 5 laps on the board. And race leader David Poogey, last time around it was 0.286 of a second. Now he's more than half a second clear. So starting to stretch his legs. And Joran Neutra, one of the stars of the race for me. He's running in 5th place, started 6th, but he's driving against drivers with a lot more experience in Clios. And Davey Poogey, such an excellent driver in them. He was yet to win a Clio Cup title. He was 3rd in the French Series in 2018, 2nd in the French Series in 2019, 3rd in 2020. Last year he was 2nd. Surely a championship may come his way in his national series. Again, neat and tidy at the top of the hill. The only driver really taking many, many risks is the one who's making progress, Nicola Milan. He was 9th, he was 8th, he's now 7th, and he's trying his best to hunt down Jerzy Spinkovitz. front 5 just starting to make a tiny bit of an escape ahead of Jersey. At the bottom of the hill at 180, lots of pressure for the race leader. Davey Poogey has got Nicola Milan all over him. Little bit of locking up, but nothing too serious. And up the climb they go. Out of 180, you have a bit of a right swerve and then a straight run as you come up the hill to the Imola chicane, right and left. Oh, I'd say Milan's closer this time around, but it's so hard to make a move. But he's taking a look, bottom of the hill, that's the final seat. There we are, sorry, the top of the hill there, Château d'Eau, that's coming out of the Imola chicane. But it's so difficult, you can get close up there, but you know when you get down to the bottom of the hill to the Virage du Lycée, unless you've got an awful lot greater speed, which you're unlikely to have at the front end of the field, or have suddenly found amazing braking potential at the bottom, it's almost impossible to pass there. Over the curbs they go. Now, one potential advantage as Davey Poogey starts lap number 7. The lead has come down slightly to 0.36 of a second over Nicola Milan. Marc Guillot third, Albuy fourth, Joran Lenoitra still running in 5th place. Jerzy Spinkovic, and he is just in front of the charging Nicolas Abella. The Spaniard definitely having a really good race, rising up the order. Started from 10th, up to 7th and pushing. Marc Guillot lost out a little bit and sort of just before the safety car came out, and then I was slightly concerned he had a puncture. I don't know what it was, but he certainly hasn't got a puncture because he's pushing very hard indeed. He's now onto the tail of the first 2, and is the order about to change up the inside as he's done before? Nicola Milan takes the lead, but fast in doesn't always mean fast out, and down the slope they go. David Poogey is alongside. There's going to be bouncing over the curbs on the way down. And is Poogey back in front? Yes, he is. He's got his car in the right position, but Nicola Milan's going to try and brave it out around the outside. Just discretion is the better part of valour at the Nürburgring hairpin, and he ducks back into 2nd place. Bit of a lock-up down into 180 from the race leader, from David Poogey. You know what? Marc Guillot could pick up the pieces in this one, and it looks like a change of position behind. Joran Lenoitra in 77 gets up the inside, but he's now on the outside of 25, and that's Alexandre Albuy trying his hardest to hold on to 4th place, but he's got his car on the correct line, which is the right-hand side as they go up the hill into the Imola swerves. Oh, it's very there's indeed in that battle. Absolutely extra, but Joran Lenoitra, car 77, has decided he's coming up the inside at Château d'Eau. There is rubbing, but not quite enough. And there's been a problem for Nicola Milan. Suddenly, instead of challenging for the lead, he's fallen back to 3rd. He's lost momentum at Château d'Eau, and he's going to lose a couple more positions down the hill. So you make a challenge, lose momentum, and it's so hard to pick it up. Is there any body damage on number 1? Nicola Milan's going to have to do it all again. He puts Joran Lenoitra to the outside. Lauren has to tuck it in behind as they go through the chicane onto the start-finish straight. So suddenly, I did wonder about Marc Guillot getting to the front. 3rd became 2nd without a struggle for him at all. Something went amiss for Nicola Milan. He's fallen back down, back into 4th place. He's got to do it all over again. How much more time have we got? 9 minutes, plus an extra lap beyond that. Surely, at this point, Milan was just under 2.5 seconds down on the race leader, on David Poogey. He's challenged him before. So, up the hill we go. This is a replay. Nicola Milan ducks out. He's probably going up the inside here, hits the curbs. That is the Imola chicane. And then, simply, well, there's a route to take, and that's not the one. That's the one he did take, and no wonder he lost so much ground. So his tyres have been covered in dirt and muck and dust. Take a while to get them to dial back in, but already he's challenging Alexandre Albuy. He wants to get 3rd place back at the very least. You know what? Sometimes you get these drivers hunting together. They can help each other. But look in the background, the blue and pink car, Nicola Abella, the Spaniard, is right on their tail. This has been a very good race for him. He's 6th. He's worked his way up from 10th. He could yet gain more positions. Alexandre Albuy starting to go a little bit too deep into 180, loses the position. So Nicola Milan up to 3rd place. His pressure made Albuy break too deep into 180. Joran Lenoitra wants to get in that mix as well. So those first 2 cars, David Poogey, Marc Guillot, clear, fighting together. Guillot is looking stronger and stronger. Milan, just about the point of the circuit where he ran through the gravel last time around. In fact, you can't quite see his time marks. They'd have been at the top of the screen through that gravel trap. He then, of course, rejoined with that run across the grass at Château d'Eau. But the car with the green, white and red livery back up into 3rd position. Hunting, what can he do? He's got time. He's just got to have some really good laps. Nicolas Abella leading the Spanish class. quite comfortably, thank you very much. That's the pink and the blue car with the pink stripes. He's really driven an excellent race. Oh, Nicola Milan very sideways through that really tricky, tight chicane onto the start-finish straight. First two covered by 0.3 of a second. Marc Guillot in the all-yellow car chasing the white and yellow Clio of Davey Poogey, who started on pole, has had to work hard. He's been challenged, he's been passed, but he's back in front and he's looking good. What's the gap back? 1.7 seconds overall back to Nicola Milan. So Nicola was faster than them last time around. In fact, he set the fastest lap event of the race so far, very close to the pole time. So he's really, really going well. Look in the background, there's the first two, then the car with the green nose. That is Nicola Milan. He will no longer get a tow this lap. He's now got himself up into that third position. He's got to do it with his own natural speed. And a car that's joined the battle behind 1, 2, 5 is Jerzy Spinkovic, who lost out earlier in the race and lost about 5 or 6 positions, but he has joined that battle that runs from Nicola Milan, Alexandre Albouy, Joran Lenoitra, Nicolas Abella, and now Jerzy Spinkovic on the tail of that. This is Renault Clio racing at the very best on a circuit where they can really get their elbows out. You don't have to be single file at Magny-Cours. Car number 115, I'm afraid that's over and out for today for Stéphane Nevers. Suitable name because the circuit just down the road from Nevers in the centre of France. 6 minutes plus 1 further lap. You can sense the group behind, the group from Nicola Milan backwards, are just going to see if they can tow each other up onto the tail of the first few. Nicola Milan running a little bit wide. Has he used his tyres too much too soon through Chateau d'Eau? I don't sense he's gaining them on this lap. He does have the fastest lap of the race, but we'll see if he can close. But look, the number on the clock up at the top of the screen is getting smaller all the time. Just over 5.5 minutes plus 1 further lap. That may not be enough for Marc Guillot in second place to challenge the race leader, Davey Poogey, who you have to say has got everything covered. But one little bit of sideways action, and the first two could suddenly be in the grasp of the 5-car group that's chasing them down in behind. Car 67, the best of the rest. Sorry, 47 is Alex Lahaut in 8th place overall. Now we're looking at the class battles further down the field. Oh dear, I'll push your wing mirror out if you push mine. And the shortest of shortcuts across the chicane there, but force majeure one feels. That or hit the wall. Well, last time around it was still advantage Nicola Milan, but he only gained 1/10 of a second, so it's looking better and better for Davey Poogey and Marc Guillot. They may just enjoy their own battle up the inside, but not quite far enough, surely. Oh, dearie me. Poogey turns across the nose of Guillot, and who's going to gain as they lose momentum? It's Nicola Milan onto their tail, and he's also got Alexandre Albouy, who's got ahead of Joran Lenoitra, Nicola Abella, and then Jerzy Spinkovic. Down the hill they go. There's the top 7, and instead of the first 2, a gap, and then the next 5, it's the first 7 cars nose to tail. There is still a chance for Nicola Milan as he fights back. He's up to 3rd. He was 3rd before, but he's on the tail of the first 2. Marc Guillot locks up a little bit in front of him into 180. Nothing untoward down there. So who's going to make the move and where? Davey Poogey leading the race, car number 15 for GPA Racing. All he has to do is stay in front, but he's driven a textbook race until he tried to turn across the nose. I would suggest Marc Guillot, look at the replay. The yellow car comes up the inside, but he's a car length behind. Poogey has to turn in at some point. You can see there's the clash. They both lose momentum, and that gave the opportunity for Nicola Milan to get on his tail. Milan, the green tail end of his car, is getting closer and closer to Marc Guillot, his own teammate, but that will be forgotten in the heat of the battle. Down to Virage du Lycée. How hard are they going to use the curves? They're going to hit them, bounce onto the start-finish straight. 1, 2, 3, nice, neat, tidy. Who is going to gain? Jerzy Spinkovic, the car with the orange flash. Orange and black flashes at the back of the group. The car coming across the line in 7th position. Can't quite stay with them, but you know what? He's only 3 seconds off the race leader. It is that close at the front end of the field. Alexandre Albouy going very, very well indeed. Pushing on at the front of the field, but it's Davey Poogey by 0.4 of a second now. Let's take a look. The gentleman drivers, it's Laurent Diazidus who's leading that for the French Clio Cup series. So battles within battles. You've got the overall, you've got the challengers standings, you've got the gentlemen's standings, and then you do it 3 times over because you've got the 3 different championships, the French, the Spanish and Central European. But Nicola Milan, he's made the move, he's done it before, got the toe up the hill, on Marc Guillot to the Adelaide hairpin, up the inside. And at that point, they did remember they were teammates. So can Nicola Milan do what Marc Guillot could not do, which is attack and succeed in getting past Davey Poogey? Again, lap after lap into 180, just a little bit of locking up down at 180. At that point, the track bends around to 180 degrees. Good grief, I wonder why the corner's called that. And then up the hill they go, the sweeping Imola chicane as they get towards the crest, and then right at the crest of the hill at Château d'Eau, they turn to the right. But it does, oh gosh, definitely the body language is Nicola Milan, number one, attacking, pushing. Can David Poogey hold on? Hasn't left the door wide enough open. Nicola Milan will use caution this time at Château d'Eau. He's not trying to do it yet. He's got this lap, one further lap, and one beyond. It's now the first six. Jerzy Spinkovic can't quite stay there. It's David Poogey, Nicola Milan, Marc Guillot, Alexandre Albuy, Joran Lenoitre, and Nicola Abella. They are the fast six. See how the gap's been moving, opening out. Fastest lap of the race last time around from Nicola Milan. No wonder he's just a quarter of a second down on the race leader. He's got this lap and one beyond. Is he going to make a move? Not yet, into Estoril, the corner that turns to the right at the bottom of the dip and then starts rising up. There's the fastest lap, 1 minute 58.467 of a second. But what is most important right now, Nicola Milan has got the toe as they exit the Estoril curve. Up the slope they go. He's got to keep his car right under the tail of the one in front, which is the race leader, the poleman, David Poogey. Poogey knows the attack is coming. Do you make him go to the outside? That's precisely what you do. Put him on the outside, and those behind, led by Marc Guillot, will see if there's a clash. It could be our chance to close in. Almost a clash on the exit, and David Poogey did just enough to cover Nicola Milan. They'll bounce over the curb on the right-hand side of the circuit. So the left, from their point of view, as they come down the slope into the sweeper at Nürburgring. Use the curves, but not too hard. David Poogey's done this before, you know. You could just see his experience in the Clio Cup, knows where to put the car, knows that for Nicola Milan, if he wants to come past, he's going to have to go the long way, only give the option of the long way. Top 5 cars, by the way, covered by just under 1.7 seconds. That's Poogey, Milan, Guillot, Albuy, and Lenoitre. Oh, dearie me, nice to see the sponsors named, but that was as sideways as you can go, and he hardly lost momentum. That was extraordinary from Nicola Milan, just coming too fast on the approach to Virage de Lycée. Thankfully him, he's only got to have these tyres for one more lap. You see the clock has got to 25 minutes, and we've got the one lap beyond this, but that was a huge loss of momentum, but a phenomenal save. Great bit of driving. In fact, at Imola a couple of weeks ago, one of the other drivers went side, but hit the curbs, not too hard. They're both pitching the cars in at the tail. It's coming round, it's wagging the dog, but what a save. And if he'd been another couple of metres, he'd have been in the gravel. Different story, but he lives to fight on. That was astonishing. You don't, that's called don't panic. And that was a phenomenal save, but those tyres won't be too sweet, but they haven't got to go much further. 0.622 of a second as they start the final lap. That's the biggest margin for a handful of laps, but Milan showed really great fighting spirit. He's got the fastest lap of the race, but surely he's not close enough to get a tow up the hill to Adelaide this time. If a move is going to come, it's going to come maybe at Château d'Eau, maybe at the Imola chicane. He's got to just close in, and Marc Guillot tucking under his tail, possibly helping him get a little bit of a aerodynamic assistance. It's still Alexandre Albuy in 4th place overall, Joran Lenoitre, Nicola Abella in 6th, then a gap of about 2.5 seconds. To the best of the rest, Jerzy Spinkovic, Audi Palomares, Thomas Pekka, and Alexandre Lehoux completes the top 10 on this, the final lap. Where will the move come? Not happening at 180. So from David Poogey, who started from pole position, he can tick off another corner where he's held onto his position. Alexandre Albuy still being attacked by Joran Lenoitre, 25, still just in front of 77. But coming up the slope out from 180 up towards the sweeper at Imola, there's a big enough margin for David Poogey. Nicola Milan not close enough, surely, to make a move. For those behind, slightly frustrated for them as well. But Poogey has got the job done. The point at which Nicola Milan ran wide last time around, he is about 5 car lengths behind. Top of the hill, sorry, that's at Château d'Eau, but the gap is going out rather than coming down. Marc Guillot may fancy a move as they come down the bottom of the hill. But for the race leader, that surely for David Poogey is going to be race winner. He resisted an awful lot of pressure, but Virage du Lycée completed for the final time, the final chicane, the checkered flag. So it's Pugh winning from Nicola Milan in a race packed full of enterprise and fun. Marc Guillot in third place. Fourth place, Alexandre Albi, and very, very impressed with Joren Le Neutre, who mixed it with the big guns and was not out of place, taking that fifth place finish and completing the top six. Nicolas Abella made his way up the order and had a really good run. So the Spaniard enjoying his time on French ground. But that was a race full of incident, great, not just overtaking, but also great racing there. And you could see the craft of Davey Poogey under pressure from various drivers. Alexandre Albuy, his own teammate, was challenging him early on. Nicola Milan at the start of the race and at the end. And in between, Marc Guillot had his go. But it was a job well done. The first of two races here for those three Clio Cups, the Clio Cup French Series, the Clio Cup Spanish Series, and the Clio Cup Eastern European. But there it is, proof that GPA Racing and David Poogey got the job done and took victory here at Magny-Cours. So it's been a good Saturday for them. And for those behind, of course, the three different classes in each of those three national championships, there'll be plenty of winners in those various classes. Nicola Milan, second place, not for want of trying, but save of the day was a lap and a half before the checkered flag came out. And how he got the tail of the #1 Renault Clio back into line is anybody's guess. So cooling down what's an increasingly warm day. And it was probably pretty hot in those cockpits overall. But a job really, really well done by David Poogey. No wonder he's got his hand out just to acknowledge the marshals. Let's take a look at the results. And it was David Poogey top of the pile from Nicola Milan. They started in those positions at the front of the grid, but it wasn't a static order. There was plenty of movement up and down the order. Marc Guillot ending up third, Alexandre Albuy fourth. Joren Le Neutre, look to his name in future, in fifth place. Nicolas Abella, who went from 10th to 6th. Jerzy Spinkovits, Jordi Palomares, Thomas Pekar, Alex Laho at the front end of the field. 37 cars started and all but two of them got to the end. So plenty of racing here at the Magny-Cours circuit in the centre of France. And a wonderful bucolic scene, except at the circuit, of course, where you've got good views, but it's views of the racing that have been so classic here today in this spring sunshine. 1.2 seconds was the gap between first and second at the end of the race. In fact, there was probably the largest gap between first and second in all race. And in fact, we had 33 finishers. I added a couple to that list. Lydia Sempere bringing up the rear, but in a race that had the safety car interrupting it for several laps after first lap deposition into the gravel trap. But great racing before the safety car and great racing afterwards. But David Poogey started on pole, was challenged through the first couple of corners, just prevailed, was challenged a couple more times, but he got to the finish. And the driver of car number 15, that was a hot day in the office, but he did a very, very good job indeed. And so for Poogey, another win chalked up. The driver from Albi, he is just, in fact, coming up to his 44th birthday. But right now he's a sprightly 43-year-old. And a great job. Later this month he turns 44, but today probably felt like the number on his helmet, probably felt about 15. That was great racing. Plenty to talk about from the drivers at the front end. Of course, we had that little rub. Marc Guillot going up the inside of Davey Poogey. David turning across his nose. The car's being delayed. That let Nicolas Milan back onto their tail. But, well, that's just absolutely standard Clio Cup racing. That's why it's been such an amazing series. And the Renault Small Saloon Series over the past decades has just always provided fantastic viewing for the spectators and the TV viewers around the world. And it continues to entertain. In fact, the driver's looking remarkably cool, considering that was probably quite a hot cockpit environment. But from the very start, it was David Poogey, Nicola Milan pulling away from the front row of the grid, and the better start was made by the driver from second, but unfortunately for him, fell back at the second corner to third position. Others behind went wide, 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 and then a little bit more. Look for the third car coming out. Number 3 it was. Round it went. Big save. Then up at the top of the hill, it was David Poogey turning in from his own teammate Alexandre Albuy. Nicola Milan, instead of challenging for the lead, is back in third. 1:04, going for a little bit of a ride through the gravel. That was Leo Jusset. That's when his race came a little bit unstuck and he fell down into the 20-something. For those up front, it was nose to tail, but very soon we had the safety car coming out, a car stuck in the gravel. Forced the field to close right up, and then of course when it came to the restart, Davey Poogey got it right. Nicola Milan starting to challenge more and more. Marc Guillot in the all yellow number 2, tucked in behind in 3rd place. The race could potentially come to him, but Poogey was leaving doors half open, and that was all that Nicola Milan needed to go up the inside. But fast in isn't necessarily fast out, so Poogey moves back. He got his nose back in front, but these were the class drivers in the field, and there was the first mistake from Davey Poogey through the gravel. Sorry, from Nicola Milan through the gravel. He went. The second problem was at the top of the hill, and Davey Poogey turned across the nose of Marc Guillot. That slowed both of them down, allowed Milan back into the mix. Those behind were all keeping it on the black stuff. And that is 2 wheels and a little bit more from René Steenmitz. And but up front, there is the save of the day. Just got it back onto the track before going into the gravel trap. That would not have helped Nicola Milan's tyres, and certainly that is why at the end of the race, Davey Poogey came through clear by 1.2 seconds. Job really, really well done. And for those behind, nose to tail they were. But today, the first of 2 races belong from Davey Poogey, but Nicola Milan, he wins the prize for trying. So, waiting for many podium visitors. The top 3 finishers, though. Davey Poogey, his car number 15 in the middle. Nicola Milan in 2nd place, car number 1. And his teammate from Milan Competition, Marc Guillot, in 3rd place overall. Podium is just behind the main pit building at sort of pit-in end. They have to take a little swerve to drive behind the building. But Marc Guillot being called up to take the prize for 3rd position. He worked hard. He did have a chance of pitching for victory. Didn't quite work for him, but you'll be sure he'll be trying to redress that balance tomorrow. 2nd place, Nicola Milan. So handshake for his teammate. But the top step, it's a driver from GPA Racing. It's a driver who started on pole position, the driver who resisted all challenge. So welcome to the top step of the Clio Cup podium here at Magny-Cours. To Davey Poogey. He's quite young, you know. It's a great way to encourage people to maybe consider a racing career themselves. But here comes Davey Poogey. He'll have enjoyed that. The best wins, the ones you have to fight for, and he most certainly did here at Magny-Cours at lunchtime. It's good to have a large number of fans around the back to experience the podium. And now the national anthem. So as the strains of the Marseillaise fade away, it's all French drivers at the top of the podium. Davey Poogey, Nicola Milan and Marc Guillot. Of course, this meeting is not a round of the Clio Cup Europe, it's Clio Cup France, Clio Cup Spain and Clio Cup Eastern Europe. 37 drivers went out to play, 33 came home, and the front 3, this street, fantastic form. Looking forward very much to tomorrow's race, but who can do anything about Davey Poogey? Nicola Milan most certainly can and will. Marc Guillot could yet topple them tomorrow. But today, the Saturday at Magny-Cours, the name on the winner's trophy is Davey Poogey.